Okay, let's dive right in. We're going to get to the very heart of Yuval Noah Harari's incredible book, Sapiens. It's really the story of us, how Homo sapiens went from being just another animal to, well, the rulers of planet Earth.
For most of human history, we were pretty unremarkable. We were stuck somewhere in the middle of the food chain, frankly, scared of our own shadows. We definitely weren't the fastest or the strongest animals out there. So what was our secret weapon? What changed?
Now, you might be thinking it was bigger brains or better tools, and well, that's part of it, but not the most important part. The real secret, the true game changer, was a revolution in how we think. A shift so profound, Harari calls it the cognitive revolution, and it all kicked off around 70,000 years ago.
At the core of this revolution is one very specific, very strange ability. Think about it. Other animals can communicate about things right in front of them. Look out, a lion, but only sapiens figured out how to talk about things that don't physically exist. Things like myths, gods, nations, and money. This, right here, this is our superpower.
And we've got the receipts to prove it. Just look at this thing. It's an incredible artifact that's 32,000 years old. It's a human body with the head of a lion. Now, the artist who carved this never saw a lion man walking around. It's a physical object born from a pure idea, a story, a myth, something that existed only in the imagination.
So why does imagining things matter so much? Well, it all comes down to a number, 150. Sociologists have found that's basically the max number of people you can have in a group that's held together just by personal relationships and gossip. Any bigger than that, and things start to fall apart. You just can't know or keep track of more than 150 people.
And that right there is the million-person question, isn't it? If our natural limit is 150, how on earth did we build cities? How did we create empires? How do you get thousands or even millions of total strangers to trust each other and work together?
The answer? You get them to believe in the same story, a common myth. Take a modern company like Peugeot. What is Peugeot? You can't point to it. It isn't the factories, it isn't the workers, it isn't the cars. It's what lawyers call a legal fiction. It's an idea that exists only because we all agree to believe in it.
And here's the crucial part. This shared figment of our imagination has real power. It allows Peugeot to own buildings, to pay taxes, to hire thousands of people. These imagined realities, from companies to countries, are the invisible glue that makes our large-scale societies possible.
But this superpower of ours, it didn't just lead to amazing cooperation. It also led us straight into a trap, something Harari calls history's biggest fraud.
We usually think of the shift to farming as this obvious leap forward for humanity, right? Progress! But Harari makes this really provocative argument that for the average person, life actually got a whole lot worse.
I mean, when you look at the actual evidence from fossilized skeletons, ancient foragers were healthier. They had a much more varied diet, they worked fewer hours, and they were taller than the farmers who came after them. The farmer's life was just back-breaking labor, day in and day out, all focused on a handful of crops, like wheat or rice.
This was what Harari calls the luxury trap. It started with the idea of making life a little easier. But that pursuit of an easier life led to a population explosion and a much harder existence. More people meant more mouths to feed, which meant more work. And once you were in it, there was no going back. The trap snapped shut.
So as our farms grew into cities, and cities grew into empires, our stories, our fictions, had to get bigger too. We needed even more powerful myths to hold these massive new societies together.
And Harari points to three really big fictions that managed to unite almost all of humanity. First, you have money. It's the ultimate trust system. Strangers who hate each other can still use it to trade. Then you have empires, these huge political stories that govern millions of diverse people. And finally, universal religions, belief systems that transcend borders and cultures.
Let's look at an ancient example. The Code of Hammurabi wasn't just a list of laws. No, it was an imagined order. It was a story that told everyone that the gods themselves had decided there should be superiors, commoners, and slaves. And because people believed that story, hundreds of thousands of Babylonians could cooperate within that system.
Okay, now let's compare that ancient myth with a more modern one, the American Declaration of Independence. One story says people are fundamentally unequal. The other says people are fundamentally equal. They are completely, totally contradictory.
And this is where it gets really mind-bending. Harari's point is that neither of these ideas, hierarchy or equality, is an objective biological fact. They are both just powerful stories we invented. We believe in equality today not because it's written in our DNA, but because believing in it helps us build the kind of society we want to live in.
So with all this progress, all this cooperation, all this power, has it actually made us any happier? This might be the biggest question of all.
Well, from a purely biological point of view, probably not. Our brains seem to have a kind of biochemical thermostat for happiness. It's a set point. Big life events might change our mood for a bit, but we almost always drift back to our baseline. A modern banker with an iPhone isn't necessarily biochemically happier than a medieval peasant.
And then there's the psychological part. Happiness often comes down to the gap between your expectations and your reality. But today, thanks to advertising and social media, our expectations have gone through the roof. We're not comparing ourselves to the neighbors anymore, we're comparing ourselves to celebrities and influencers, which makes finding contentment really, really hard.
So, if our ability to create fictions got us here, from insignificant apes to rulers of the planet, where is this superpower taking us next? What's the final chapter?
Harari says the biggest project in the world today is what he calls the Gilgamesh Project. For the first time in history, science is starting to treat death not as some inevitable fate, but as just another technical problem that we can and should solve.
And this is where the story comes completely full circle. We started 32,000 years ago by just imagining new kinds of beings, like the Lion Man. Today, with genetic engineering and artificial intelligence, we're on the verge of actually creating them. We're starting to upgrade ourselves.
And that is the huge, profound question Harari leaves us with. The fictions that made us human are now giving us the power to become something else, something like gods. The only thing we know for sure is that the next stories we choose to believe in will shape not just the future of our species, but the future of life itself. So what stories will we tell next?